Hello, my name's Melanie Howard and I'm the chair of the Future Foundation, who've been conducting the study of the economic impact analysis of direct marketing for the DMA. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but we're making this video in order that I can communicate with you the key findings from the study that's just been published. I suppose the background to the study, just to bring you up to date with where we started, is to consider the fact that the UK will continue to experience minimal or slow economic growth. As you probably heard recently, the IMF have just downgraded this year's growth forecast from 0.8% down to 0.2%. And next year, we're not really expecting a dramatic improvement in the economy. And this really forces us to look at the fact that the creative and communications industries, which have been the fastest growing sector over the past decade, are going to be extremely important to the future health and growth of the UK economy. And a very important part of that, of course, is direct marketing. Last year, the internet economy was estimated to be worth 121 billion by the government's own study. And we have to put direct marketing in the context of the fact it's become an everyday means for business to interact with customers since the advent of database marketing in the 1990s. And now, if you like, amplified and made even more ubiquitous by the spread of digital communications over the last decade or so in the 2000s. Just consider 86% of UK citizens have at least one loyalty card. That was a finding from the recent study that we undertook for the DMA on the consumer side, whether that's a Tesco card or a Nectar card. 80% now have used a price comparison website to decide what service they're going to buy in key financial sectors. And our forecasts show that 60% of the population will have a smartphone by 2018. And just looking at these forecasts, what we can see, in fact, is that there's an ever more rapid uptake of technology across the population as a whole, which is dramatically changing the landscape and has resulted in the fact that direct marketing has now become a key means by which brands and businesses can interact with their customers, whether they're business to business or consumer, enabling them to gather data, to target efficiently and make more efficient products and services for them. So the whole point, if you like, of direct marketing these days, and modern direct marketing in particular, is that it becomes a data-driven, individually tailored communication method, if you like, to target services for the consumer. And just looking ahead, which is something that we do at the Future Foundation, we have many examples from our own forecasts, our own projections of how the world is going to be that tell us that more and more consumer services and products will be predicated on the ability of brands and businesses to better understand their consumers through the data they gather via digital communications. And some of our trends in this area are increasingly powerful, such as the quantified self, or this example here, which we call the iShop, which is a concept in which a consumer increasingly will inform providers about their predilections, their interests, their family members, and be able to use tablets or smartphones, wherever they are, to access the relevant products and services at a good price. So against that backdrop of understanding the degree to which direct marketing has become part of consumer society and part of everyday business transactions, the purpose of the study, as commissioned by the DMA, was to really understand the current contribution that direct marketing makes to the UK economy and provide quantification for that. We also were asked to look at the potential constraints that the draft EU data protection regulations will put on businesses going forward. So not just understanding where we are today, but indeed what could happen should more draconian legislation be put through. And ultimately, we wanted to find a way of dramatising the importance of the direct marketing industry to the future of a healthy consumer society and business success. And we've done that under four main headings. First of all, we've looked at estimating expenditure on direct marketing in the UK. Secondly, we're looking at the growth potential of direct marketing. And thirdly, the sales attributable. And finally, coming up with a view on the total employment that we can attribute to direct marketing today in the UK. The research that we did for the study was based on a sample of the UK business population, and we were able to interview more than 450 companies by telephone, speaking to the marketing decision maker in each case. It was taken to be representative of the business population as a whole, and we've been able to gross up the results using standard economic impact analyses conventions to enable us to arrive at our estimates. The first real headline from the study is that expenditure on direct marketing totaled 14.2 billion in 2011. And we've arrived at this because on average, the companies surveyed spent around 68,000 each on direct marketing in the past year. Now, we looked at the size of those companies and their total turnover, and not surprisingly, they were perhaps a little larger than the UK average, but allowing for that, and for the fact that some companies do no direct marketing at all, and of course nowadays, the definition of direct marketing also includes digital direct marketing. We were able to estimate that the 1.9 million companies in the UK spent a total of 14.2 billion on direct marketing. Just to look at the way in which that splits between direct marketing to consumers and to businesses, it is the case that whilst as many as 80% of our sample engaged in marketing to businesses and around 50% of the sample, with obviously considerable overlap between the two, market to consumers, it is those businesses that market directly to consumers that tend to have much larger budgets. So the ratio, if you like, the split between the two is that 11.36 billion will be spent on business to consumer direct marketing and 2.84 billion business to business. The second of my main headlines for today is that direct marketing is growing, and no surprise that that's particularly true of digital direct marketing. Our respondents estimated that direct marketing spending in 2012 will be 7% higher than it was in 2011. And we feel that this is going to make a really significant contribution to UK economic performance over this year. The largest increases, as you can see, are expected by our respondents to be in the digital and electronic media, so particularly in email marketing, which is estimated to be going up by 12%, followed by social media campaigns up 8%, and internet search advertising up 6%. It's interesting to note, actually, that even display advertising in newspapers and magazines, which is designed to get a direct response, which fits our definition of direct marketing, is also expected to grow by 5%. So buoyant, really, across the board. And again, back to our tough economic times and economic context that I was talking about earlier, this positive outlook, I think, is even more important looking ahead. And just a quick word about outsourcing activity, because I know that's very key to the Direct Marketing Association's membership, 75% of whom, of course, are in the specialist supplier category. And of all of our sample, 25% told us that they outsourced some direct marketing. And of those that did, the average share of the budget that was outsourced was 53%, which adds up to a really significant 1.7 billion in total. And perhaps no surprises here to see that the top companies, the top sectors that are using agencies are financial services, charities and other services, followed by telecoms and utilities. So a broad base of different users of direct marketing specialist services. So the third of the key findings is that a really significant proportion of sales in the UK are generated by direct marketing. And this is based on the fact that our respondents said that 23%, that's almost a quarter, of all sales that they made as businesses were attributable, at least in part, to direct marketing. This is an extraordinary finding in the sense that it also proves the point I was making earlier, that direct marketing has become totally integrated into the marketing communications and sales activity of UK businesses, whatever the size, whatever the scope of their activities today. If it was extrapolated across all sales as a figure, it would produce an estimate of 700 billion pounds of sales that could be attributed to direct marketing. Amongst the sectors, retailers and wholesalers attributed the largest impact of sales to direct marketing. Again, perhaps no surprise given the way in which direct and digital marketing are now combining to supplement and enhance the traditional channels that retailers have been using through their stores. And the fourth and final of the key findings from the study, and again a very significant one, is that over 500,000 people, 525,000, are employed in direct marketing in the UK. We've arrived at this 525,000 figure from three different routes, if you like. The first, which is from our respondents in the survey, who told us that on average, across all of the different sized companies, they employ 5 people per firm involved in direct marketing. And if you look at that, that's around 2% of the total employees in the companies that we surveyed. This adds up to 155,000. The second figure is the direct employment in specialist firms. This will be the agencies and suppliers that make up the core of the DMA membership. And based on an estimate from the DMA that they represent, as their members represent around 20% of the supplier market, this gives us a figure of 225,000 direct employees in agencies and specialist providers of direct marketing services. And to this, we add indirect employment in related services, which includes 25% of employees in the Royal Mail, based on the fact that 25% of all mail now is direct mail, and also a significant proportion of employees in UK call centres, which is estimated as a total of 800,000, of which 112,000 are considered to be primarily responsible for dealing with direct marketing responses and outbound sales calls. So that gives us another 150,000 to add to the total. If you look at that 525,000 employed in direct marketing in the UK, it compares, I think very interestingly, with the fact that there's 489,000 these days employed by the civil service and around 500,000 in agriculture. So the last figure on this slide is that 1 in 6 direct marketing employees is now a digital direct marketing specialist. And this gives us, I think, evidence that digital direct marketing is completely integrated into all other forms of direct marketing and communications. A lot of these are working on social media, and actually I suppose there's also a question there about how much activity they're involved in that perhaps doesn't even come into the radar of the figures that I've just given you. Obviously, this level of employment provides many economic benefits to the UK, incalculable. If we just look at the impact of spending by all of those direct marketing employees and those people whose jobs are accounted for by direct marketing activity, we can see that all over the country there are really significant impacts in terms of the amount of money that will be spent by those employees in other markets. These are called the induced effects. It's also interesting perhaps to consider the level of average salary in direct marketing, not particularly high compared to the average earnings figure of 33,000, but certainly we know that people on slightly lower incomes are likely to put more of their income back into the market and save proportionately less, so likely to have a bigger impact overall. The good news for employment in direct marketing is that a higher proportion of our respondents in the survey are likely, they believe, to increase the number of employees in direct marketing than decrease. And that's particularly high, as the data shows, in the telecoms and utilities sector, and also business and professional services. So along with that view that direct marketing expenditure is likely to increase by 7%, we've also got a positive outlook in terms of increasing the number of direct marketing employees going forward. The estimate that we've arrived at for the potential cost of the draft EU legislation as it currently stands, and this adds up to a total of 47 billion, both in lost sales and additional costs to UK businesses. Based on the estimate from those of our respondents who were able to answer the question, who put forward a figure on average of £76,000 each, equivalent to 11% of turnover. And this was particularly prevalent amongst the smaller businesses who feel that they're going to be most impacted by some of the new proposals. It's a very large figure, obviously, and one that needs to be taken extremely seriously. There are many questions still to be answered, and obviously this debate has to run its course. One thing that we're not entirely clear about yet is whether IP addresses are really to be considered personal data or not. Our respondents were absolutely certain that any diminishment of their ability to undertake web analytics would have serious implications for their business. And when we compare that to the fact that when we study the consumer population, as we have done recently with the DMA, 60% of our respondents agree that they do have to provide personal information these days in order to be able to buy online. And as many as 40% actually said that they liked the time-saving benefits of being recognised by an online service when they went back to buy something again. In contrast to this big figure, and surprisingly perhaps, is that the awareness of the legislation as it's currently proposed amongst businesses generally is really quite alarmingly low, particularly in some sectors. So as you can see here, the larger proportion of businesses are not aware of the proposed legislation. And of course this is one of the reasons why the DMA are commissioning this report and holding this launch event today, is to really raise awareness of some of the potential damage that the legislation might do if it is not modulated. There are many important facts coming out of this report, and I hope you will have a chance to read it and consider some of the figures in greater detail. It's absolutely clear, as it has been to us for some time, previous studies have shown, that direct marketing is a key contributor to the health and the growth of the UK economy. £14.2 billion is spent on direct marketing activities per year, and our respondents estimate that that's going to grow by 7% in this current year alone. Nearly a quarter of all sales have been attributed to direct marketing across the UK. And if we look at that in financial terms, that could add up to £700 billion worth of sales. As we've seen, more than 500,000 people are employed directly and indirectly in direct marketing, totaling 525,000. And the concern is really the estimate for the potential cost of EU legislation, which stands at 47 billion. As we've seen, this is a very important and significant industry that makes a huge contribution to the UK economy, has great prospects for growth, and it's vital that we take this threat very seriously. The future of direct marketing, it is absolutely clear when we look at the context of the changes that are happening to consumers, the spread of digital media and methods, is data-driven, digitally delivered, and is going to be a vital component of the UK's future. Thank you very much.